At the end of the day, every company has its own identity. The problem is most companies do not have a clarified internal brand that we're calling a corporate culture. And instead of a life that you get to live, you got a job that you have to go to. When you give yourself enough space to be honest that the job is not enough. Your job to change the world requires you to be you. It's time for you to start making active choices that allow you to live a good and fulfilled life. Hey, my name is Shauna K. Henson. I'm a lifestyle design coach, goal strategist, and corporate culture consultant. When you do the work that I do inside of corporations where we go in to install identity-based and identity-driven programs and ecosystems on behalf of the employees and the leadership that are working for said corporations, you encounter a lot of people with a lot of different perspectives about what it means to work for the same company. You have some people that are deeply indoctrinated into kind of the ethos of the company, so they end up being mouthpieces for the company. Those are the people that are towing the company line. They've been there for quite a while, and really they have no qualms about the way that the company is run, and they're there to kind of make sure that it stays basically the same. Then you have people that come with all of their optimism and their kind of exuberance around their area of expertise and maybe even their zone of genius. So they come into this new company with all of that energy ready to deploy it inside of that company, right? And so then you get there, you get the job, and as you have the job, that excitement starts to fade. Well, why? This phenomenon of this place changes you, that it's possible for the company to change the essence of who you are. It's not flawed. It's relatively accurate. And it's accurate because while different people approach the same company through different lenses and lanes because of their individual experiences, their unique identity set, and maybe even what kind of qualifications that they're bringing to the table currently, at the end of the day, every company has its own identity. That should be brand, okay? And when we talk brand about a company, we're talking about internal and external brand. What we talk about most often in the world and like in the consumer world is the brand that you experience as somebody that would buy something from a company. You buy Nike, that's a brand. You buy Adidas, that's a brand. You buy, I don't know, Apple, iPad, whatever, that's a brand. And you then buy that brand based on what you know about that brand. But there's an internal brand that is called corporate culture. An internal brand is what every employee comes to know, understand, and expect from the company that they have assigned themselves to work for. So when you do the work that I do, you talk to a lot of different people that are coming from these different lenses based on what they understand about the common essence of the brand of the company. Here's the problem. The problem is most companies do not have a clarified internal brand that we're calling a corporate culture, and that affects the employee. Because if you are signing up to work for a company and they do not have a clarified understanding of who they are claiming to be, and they are not being what they write down on their walls to say that they are, then how are you supposed to know how to be inside of this company? So a lot of times what I find is you have these brilliant minds and these humans that come into these companies that are ready, they're excited, they're exuberant, they're ready to give it all for the company that they think they're signing up for, but when they get in the walls, they discover that it's not exactly what they purported to be. Whether it was from the interview process or what they read on the website or some paper that they read or some social media post that brought them in or even the job posting itself, there's something about the cognitive dissonance that comes up from the job you got hired for and what the company said they were going to be and what your actual lived experience is. So instead of you as a brilliant person going into your job every day and being able to give it all, you end up deciding which piece of me am I going to give this place because they really don't deserve me. And they tell you that by the way that they interact with you. When they start to see your genius and they give you the accolades and they give you all the kudos in the world. Oh my God, this person, you're doing such a great job. You're so good at what you do. Nobody's ever been as good as you. Great. And then the minute they have a bad day, or the minute something shifts for them, or the minute you don't do something perfectly, now you're not as special. And now you're not the person to go to. Now you're not and so then your demeanor starts to shift. I mean, listen, I feel like I'm in church right now. If this is resonating with you, just type it somewhere. I don't know where you're going to type it, but type it somewhere and just say, this is me. This is my story. This is what happened to me. This is why the job that I went in that I thought was the blessing, the job that I went in that I prayed for, I waited for, I fasted for, I talked to everybody that I knew to try to get the job. I got it. And then all of a sudden that same job becomes the curse of your life. That is the whole kind of crux of the problem when companies have this break between who they say they want to be and who they actually are. And unfortunately, you as the people that are like, you're going to work for these companies, you're not trying to not give your best. You're not trying to somehow give less. But when they don't make space for you to be your whole self, what other choice do you have? And so here you are in this version of your life that you weren't necessarily expecting, where the job that you prayed about, the job that you prayed for, the job that you now have that you are working in and doing the best that you could have done in the beginning, now you find yourself giving a version of that good. And a version of your good, it's probably fine. Like, it's probably fine that you're doing just enough to kind of get through. And there's no real way for the people that you are working with and for to know that you're just getting through. Only you know that. And so then is there a challenge with that? Maybe it's just fine for you to go to work. But if you really think about it for a minute, there was a moment for you, probably, where you started going to work and it wasn't okay anymore. And the dissatisfaction started to build to frustration, and the frustration started to build to disappointment, and the disappointment started to build the disregard, not only for the job, but for yourself and your priorities and things that really matter to you. And so here you are now sacrificing on the altar called responsibility, this life that you get to live. And instead of a life that you get to live, you got a job that you have to go to. And if you feel like you have to go to the job, then when do you get to think about building something that matters? So here's what happens in a lot of these instances, and then I'm going to get somewhere with this, I think. In a lot of these instances, you find something to attach to that keeps you at the company. The most basest version of that would be the paycheck, right? Like, okay, the paycheck is enough for me to like pay my bills and get by, and I'm good with that. So I keep the job to keep the paycheck. That's the most basest version. What I see a lot of times is that people stay because they're attached to a leader. So somebody is leading them well. And so then you are able to stay longer because you're under good leadership. And when you're under good leadership, like, a lot of things about the company overall can kind of go by the wayside, where a really good leader is able to kind of make space for you, give you some encouragement, give you some direction and some insight. A poor leader is not able to do those things. And so they are self-serving, only considering themselves. All they want from you is a list of tasks that you then have to execute in a certain, finite period of time. And that's all they're really worried about. They're not necessarily worried about you, your well-being, how things are going for you. And if you are sick and your leg is falling off, they come to work. Like, you be all right, take the morning off, we'll see you in a minute. And that the disconnect there in that level and type of leadership can make or break somebody's desire to stay attached to a company. So if the leadership thing is holding you there, that's great until your structure of your company changes. Now your leader's different. So your job responsibilities shift. And it's something I see it over and over again, that you stay for the leader, but the leader is no longer your direct pipeline. So now you're reporting to somebody different, which probably adjusts your responsibilities a little bit. And while the adjusted responsibilities in the beginning seem like the best thing for you, again, after a while, you look around and you realize it's not exactly what you wanted. So now you downshift because now you're frustrated. Now you're blaming. Now you're looking for a way out. Now you're considering other positions and other jobs. And it's one big perpetual cycle that only ends when you give yourself enough space to be honest. When you give yourself enough space to be honest that the job is not enough. I get it, right? Like, the data always says that if people are recognized more at work in a positive way, then they would more likely, stay. It's like in hospitals. Like, I saw this on some show, I don't know, one of them Chicago shows probably, that it's like, when you go and apologize for something, some sort of misconduct or something like that, when you go and issue the apology, the people are less likely to sue. There's less likely to be a consequence, kind of a thing. And I think that in corporate, that equivalent is when you give recognition. But have you received enough recognition to be just placated into continuing the stasis? When you give yourself, and this is really where I want to bring the plane to land it for you, the notion that you have to give yourself the permission to be honest, because this whole condition will stay exactly as it is until you are honest enough with yourself to acknowledge, you know what? Why am I really staying at this job? What is it about this job that is serving me in any kind of way? And if it's not serving your life, your liberty, and your legacy, then you do not need to have it. And that is like a very real quick rubric, a quick way to assess whether or not the job that you are working in, the company that you are working for, because that's really more it than anything else, because you got the job because you're qualified for the job, or you wanted to grow in your qualifications for that job. So now the question is not typically the job, it's typically the company that is giving you the work of the job. So if they're giving you too much work, then they're not letting you do your job. because it's too much work. If they're asking you to do something outside of your job description, then you're not able to do your job. If they're not giving you enough supplies, equipment, or resources to do your job, then you're not doing your job because now you're filling a gap for what should be 3 jobs, right? So if the work that you signed up to do by taking this job, now you've got to start asking yourself these questions. Do I have what I need to be able to do this job? Is this company providing me what I need to be able to do this job? The answer to that is more than likely no, because companies are woefully under providing for their employees in a way that, the data, bless it, is showing 31% of people as of 2025 are highly engaged at work. Right, because at the end of the day, the majority of people are tapped out. Why? Why are you tapped out? What is the reason? Is it because somebody told you at some point you could do, be, or say something inside of this job that you are now not able to do because of some rule, some regulation, some reason, some explanation, something that comes along at any given time in a memo or an email, or somebody is sitting you in a meeting to tell you why you can't do the thing you were hired to do in the first blessed place? Limiting your ability to exercise all of your skills, limiting your ability to show up as yourself all the way, right? So you show up as a version of yourself that has a fake voice, a fake sound, a fake aesthetic, a fake, and then you get to the job and they want to know why you're not what? Changing the world every day? How? Your job to change the world requires you to be you. And once you get in these environments that are forcing the you out of you, how are you supposed to impact and change it? Okay. So when we think about this idea and this theme that the place changes you, of course it does. So either you attach to a leader or you attach to the mission. The mission should be the same. It should be the same. You should be working for a company where either, you follow a leader in, or you initially attach to the mission and then you're able to stay because of the leadership. But it's usually one of these two things. Again, the bills are the most basest reason to stay at the job. So if that's the reason that you're saying, cool, that's fine, but I would challenge you to take it a step further, because your brilliance requires capacity. You need to give yourself space to be as brilliant as you're meant to be out loud. And until you give yourself that space, you will never see how far you can go, and you'll never see everything that you're put here to do. Wouldn't that be a shame for you to get to the end of your life just to realize that you wasted it all in a place that did not actually value you because they never gave you space to be you? Wouldn't that be a shame? If the book that you were meant to write, you didn't have the bandwidth to do it because you were exhausting yourself at a job where nobody ever gave you space to even consider some of the thought leadership that exists inside of you. Wouldn't that be a shame? It could be the bills, but that feels like a wasted life if that's the only reason you're at the job. You can get your bills paid doing something else. It doesn't have to be what you've been doing, and it for sure doesn't have to be for who you've been doing it for. So it could be for the bills, but it could be for the leader. You could be following the leader. This sounds like kindergarten now, but you could be following a leader inside of your company that is inspiring to you. Someone who's like gravitas, whose ability to show up in a room, whose impact on the world is inspirational to you. I look at Stephen Bartlett. He's a fellow podcaster and creates a show called Diary of a CEO. It's one of the best podcasts that's out there. And he gives his team credit at all times for the way that they, most recently, the term he used was the way that they care for the guests, the way that they care about the mission. That is following the leader. They go to work for the company and they follow the leader because the leader is doing something amazing and they believe in that work. Now, they also probably, and gets to the next part, mission. Following the mission. You stay at a company because you love the mission. It's one thing for it to be about the bills. We already talked about that. It's something else for it to be about the leader. But when you really attach to the mission, here's where it gets tricky. The mission attachment at a company gets tricky because technically the mission should remain the same. Stephen Bartlett I'm using him as an example, created a podcast called Diary of a CEO in order to have conversations with wildly successful people and make that information accessible in a long format for the general public. He created a pathway for all of us as viewers to be able to see into the minds of people that have become successful in their own right. And they're not all gazillionaires. Some of them are just amazing scientists that have really pioneered a lane in the world. And so we get to hear their thoughts and their inside things and how did they get there? What did they do? And some of those things. And so he's kind of created this space for us to hear from the top 1% of people in a way that is accessible and digestible and gives us as the lay people an opportunity to learn. What an amazing mission for the benefit of the public to create a space where you can have these in-depth, and listen, he pulls out childhood photos, he's got their mamas and their pictures of their mamas, literally, he's really getting in between all the marrow of exactly what makes these people tick. And that mission is inspirational. So getting attached to the mission for something like that, super easy. I mean, if you're into it, right? Like that's super easy, but it could be anything else. Some nonprofit that is creating wells all over the world, some other organization or entity that is teaching children how to, become full adults or leaders, or anything that feels mission centered for you and that parallel exists. It's super easy to get attached to. Here's the problem. Once you get inside, if the leaders are not upholding the mission, you can only be attached to the mission, but for so long, because you have to get the mission through the leaders. The company by itself is communicated through the leaders of the company. It's communicated through the employees of the company. It's not the website that does this. The website is like it's like a brochure. You know what I mean? Like it's there, it has information, it says some words, and that's great. But the ethos of a company, like think about it. When you go to a restaurant, what is it that makes you love or hate that restaurant? It's not the website. It's not the website. It's who you interact with when you get there. Does the hostess come out and greet you? Do you have a good experience there? Do you go to your table and have the server? Are they welcoming and nice? Do they give you options and information? Do they go above and beyond? Do you have a child with you and they bring out the extra, drawing thing and now you have like something to do and you feel considered? Does that matter to you? And when you leave a restaurant with an experience like that, where you walk in and you are greeted at the door by the owner, right? Like I have a restaurant that I've been going to for a while. It's called Royal Taj in Columbia, Maryland. And it's a great restaurant. But when you get there, the owner, he comes out, he's like, hey, my friend, if you've been there more than once, this is what's happening to you. You go in, hey, my friend, and he's so kind and so welcoming. And then you go and you sit down and there's not one server. You get like 3 or 4 people taking care of you in this restaurant. And it's not like, it's got white tablecloths in it, but it is not a high priced restaurant, but it makes you feel so high end from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave, because that same person that welcomed you in is going to escort you out and open the door for you and escort you out. That experience makes you love the restaurant. I've never seen their website. My point is, a restaurant is just a smaller example of any company. Any company that is having any interaction with any client, with any customer, it is every single person working for that company that communicates what that company is and what they stand for. So this kind of brings me full circle, because if there's a company where the employees are disconnected from the work that they're doing because, you get there, they sell you one bill of goods, you end up living a different reality. And so now you've got like this parsed version of what you're supposed to be doing for work. And so you can't be your whole self at this job. And so you kind of are like, man, I'm here, but like, above and beyond, no, I'm not doing that. Above and beyond is crazy. I'm gonna get this paycheck and I'm gonna get out this door, right? Like that's the line that most people have. I'm gonna get this paycheck and I'm gonna get out this door. And that's all I'm gonna do for these people because they do not deserve this from me, right? But if that is the person that is interacting with the customers or the clients or whatever, you end up with an experience that's less than somebody welcoming you at the door in this example that I'm using. Someone getting on the phone and having all the customer service in the world. I had an experience lately with a brokerage institution where my bank account got locked because I had a companion checking account with them and it got locked. Do you know why it got locked? Because I spoke to one employee on the phone that decided that he was going to lock it. He did not like the way that I sounded on the phone. I'm a very pleasant person, so I wasn't rude or anything like that. But now this company has a problem because I'm not crazy, right? But I am committed. I'm determined, okay? But now this company has a problem because this one employee who has not had a good day, who decided he didn't like the tone of my voice, locked an account that was on a timeline. And I called, I emailed, I called some more, I went in, I did the things and did the stuff. And I'm using this example because we've all had that experience. Even if it's not you, even if you're like, well, I don't really think that I have this like energy at my job. I think I'm good when I go to work, whatever. You've had this experience though. You go someplace, you get on the phone, you interact with the company and somebody is having a bad day. Their dog died yesterday and so they're sad today and you get whatever's left. You get whatever's left. Now this is the question, does that person who is your only entryway into the company's mindset or the company's brand, does that person adequately represent that brand? Probably not. And I say probably not because once you get high up enough, and you know this, if you've ever filed a complaint, once you get high up enough, you hit that person that's like, no, we don't do that. We prioritize this other thing that, is really who we are. And this is what we value. And these are all the things. And so you get this different level of experience once you get high up enough. But the problem is you have to go through trouble, right? Because you don't get that high up until you pass through trouble. So now you got to pass through trouble, have a complaint, have bad will, have all these things before you get to the actual ethos of the company at a high up enough level. Could it not be then that as the leadership, because this is where I'm going to point out the flaw, attaching to the mission is great, but if the leadership is not adequately conveying the mission through the pipeline, then at some point you're going to hit employees, you're going to hit people that end up having this inability to translate the company brand to anyone. If it's a bank and you're talking to customers on the phone, then, you end up with somebody that locks an account for no blessed reason and causes all kinds of trouble for the company, right? And it doesn't have to be that way is my whole thing. So when we think about this concept of like a company or a place changing you, yeah, sure, of course it does, particularly when there's this breakdown of satisfaction between what you signed up for and what gets communicated to you through the pipeline. So imagine a world, because really, I'm not here to be doom and gloom about the whole thing. It's tough. I feel like the landscape of corporate America, it's tough right now. I don't feel like people are prioritized nearly the way that they should be. And so then by virtue of that, they're not given the skills to be able to be effective leaders or grow into effective leaders. And the people that are in leadership are likely the most disappointed, and they don't know their way out of that disappointment. And so they're just trying to navigate, just trying to navigate the in-between. And instead of having clarified humans that are all working for the same objective, you have people in survival mode that are just trying to get by. And that is how people start to default back to that first reason to stay attached to a company. It's like, I'm just here to get my money. I don't like him. I don't like her. I don't really care about this mission because I don't understand it because nobody adequately explained it to me. I'm just here for the paycheck, shawty. You know what I mean? And that mentality is what is costing us all. And the reason I say it's costing us all is because for you who go to work every day, for you who are just trying to get by, to make a better life, to get through the things, to try to, in some ways, whether you realize it or not, recover some sense of your active identity because you've lost it by staying attached to a company for reasons that maybe you haven't explored, because that's really the whole point of this. Like, why are you attached to the company that you're attached to? And so maybe reasons that you haven't explored until now, but you deserve better than that. And that is why it's such a shame for all of us, because having to be in a position to recover your identity is hard. Good God, it's hard. And doing it in a free fall where you are just trying to make sense of what's happening in your life and in your circle and in your sphere every day is hardest, because you have to keep going while also trying to understand where you have been and how you got to where you are. It is a challenging place to be. And anybody that says just go to work, it doesn't matter, it's not that big of a deal, doesn't actually understand the cost that's associated with taking that posture and acquiescing to that style of life. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Uncultured Show. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you join alongside this conversation where we are dissecting what it means for you to build a life that matters, starting with that work that's at the center of your life and your days. And whether you realize it or not, it is eating away at you, and it is time for you to start eating back. No, it's time for you to start making active choices that allow you to live a good and fulfilled life. Remember, nothing is off the table for you. If you're coming back for more and this is not your first time here, thanks for coming back. Make sure you share this episode with somebody, share it to your own channels on social media, and make sure you follow me. Let me know what's going on in your world. I'm open for questions. I'm here to support you. And anytime you need a boost, just remember that you are not by yourself.